Now that I've completed painting the hue, tint, and shade for my first two sets of colors, or my complementary pair, I am ready to begin painting on this. Now, the color I'm gonna start with between red and green is gonna be red, just because red is gonna be easier to work with only because I don't have to mix multiple colors together to get it. So, starting with the hue of my red, before I even pour paint onto one of my magazine sheets, I'm gonna take my eraser, and knowing that I'm gonna begin with the hue, very carefully, I'm going to erase only my HR. Getting rid of it completely within that space. Now, again, very carefully, red. I'm not even gonna add white or black to my paint sheet for now because I'm just focusing on the hue. I'm gonna dip using my smallest brush, the smallest of the three. And now, where I've erased, since now my hue of red is all done, I'm gonna, without rinsing my brush, I'm gonna set my brush down. And the next one that I'm gonna do is my tint of red. So I'm gonna add a little bit of white to my paint sheet. And then before I even mix that in, I'm gonna take my eraser again, look for any of the TRs on here. And I've got a tinted red here and here. And I've got same in the next. I always got to be careful. Sometimes I erase a little too quickly while my hue or while a previous color is drying, and sometimes those eraser bits will get stuck in there, but looks like I got lucky this time around. Okay, so now I've got white and red here, so I'm going to take a pretty, not huge, but a pretty decent scoop of that color, and then mix it in with my white. And then once I have my tint all ready to go, then just like I did with the hue, I'm ready, set, painting. So I've got it all mixed in. I'm gonna get some of this off my brush because I don't want to have a huge wad of paint on here, just because I have some tiny spaces that I have to try and fit within. So I'm gonna work some of that paint off of those bristles. And then very, very carefully, slowly, meticulously, methodically, all of those Lee words that you would use to describe being careful and being cautious. I'm going to work my way through. Be sure that as you're painting, you're using the right brush for the job. You've got a small brush, you've got a large brush, and then you have kind of an in-between. Be sure that based upon the size of the space that you're painting, that you're using the brush for the job. So now my hue and my tint are done. Before I mix up my shade, I'm gonna play it safe. That's kind of gonna be the key here, and be sure that I've filled in every correct spot. So I've got 2 tints in here, 1 shade, 2 tint, 1 shade, hue. Let me do that again. 2 tint, 1 hue, tint, hue, tint, tint, hue, tint, tint, hue. Okay, perfect. So now that that's good to go, I can repeat this process again, pour a little black, take my eraser, get rid of wherever I see the SR for my shaded red. All right, so I'm gonna rinse and dry my brush. Be sure to get all my white out of here, because I never, ever, ever, ever wanna mix a shade if there is still white on my brush. Just because we know that white and black together are going to make gray, and we don't want a gray version of our color. So now I'm gonna dip a fair amount of black, because I have a lot of red left over here. Although I don't have to use the whole pile of red to mix it into. Maybe one more. Let's get a good deep kind of blood red. I want to be sure that my shade is visibly different than my hue. So I'm going to take care of kind of being thorough with getting all of that black completely mixed into it before I really look at painting with that color. Now, it looks like it would be pretty good, but I'm going to play it safe and add just a teardrop's worth more of that black. Finish mixing her in. And then, as I did before, I don't want to have a huge scoop of paint on those bristles. So I'm gonna take and wipe some of that off. That way my brush, although it has the color on there, my brush doesn't look sloppily covered in that color. So I'm gonna carefully move my paint sheet out of the way. And now I'm ready for my shaded red. And there we have it. Now, the hue, the tint, and the shade of my red are complete. And if I look, all I have left written are gonna be the values with green. So tint green, shade green, hue green, tint green, shade green, hue green. Plus, by doing one color at a time, the hue, the tint, and the shade of one color at a time, it gives you kind of an extra opportunity to really check the accuracy of your labeling. So next, I would grab a new paint sheet, clean off my brushes, get my green, the colors for green poured, get it mixed up, tested, and then I'm ready to begin.